Alright, welcome back home racing fans. It's time to talk bushings. I know, I'm just as excited as you are. I can't wait to get started. A good bushing, well, I'm making fun of it, but the reality is a good bushing and good axle fit goes a long way in the performance of your car. So we're going to talk about the bushings that I'm going to use in the cars and the standard bushings and the tools to get the job done. Okay, the reason we're talking about bushings is, well, we're replacing the stock gear with more precision. We're going to have a better, precise fit between the axle and the bushing, and that's going to go a long way getting rid of the vibration and the old hot dog in a hallway effect of the stock parts. So the first thing we need to do is install our bushings. Now, you can choose two different types. You can choose standard bushings like this, and there's nothing wrong with that. They work great. SEC has these racing bushings, but I prefer the slotting plus self-aligning bushings. Now I'm going to show you the difference in the installation and the tools you're going to need for each. One of the major tools you're going to need is the bushing alignment kit. Slot Car Corner makes it, and they have a whole video series showing how to use it, so I'm not going to try to repeat it here. But basically, you're talking about getting a perfect alignment with the bushings so that your axle is really free, spins freely, has no free play, no slop, but also no binding. The key part of this kit is the pin gauge. The pin gauge is just a few thousandths larger diameter than the axle you're going to use, and it really helps in getting these bushings aligned. So again, check the links below for Slot Car Corner's complete video series on the alignment kit. So the other part of this is the 3/16 burr bit. You can see the abrasive nature of the tool. It's designed to go in here and sand out the chassis a little so that the bushings that you're putting in can fit a little bit better. I go one step further. I'll put it down and I'll bring it out. I'll put it down, turn it, bring it out. And what I'm doing is I'm making a U shape out of the chassis here, and I'm getting rid of that horseshoe effect where you have the little tabs here at the top, because that's where the pressure comes from when you're trying to snap in a bushing. And sometimes that added pressure, it can lead to some cracking in the chassis. Not all the time, but I've seen it happen, especially on some electric Trans Am cars, other cars. It can happen. So I like to sand that into a U shape. And my goal here is to be able to take the bushing, regardless of which one I'm using, but again, the Victor 2, is to be able to take it, place it in here by hand, and just put it in there with very little pressure. So you can see I can just pop it out by hand and place it in there by hand without having to use needle nose pliers or a lot of force to snap it in place. You still need to use adhesive with these bushings. As you can see, the width of the bushing goes back and forth inside the chassis, and you need to secure it. But you don't want to use super glue. And the reason that you don't want to use super glue is because this bushing, and I'll show a photo there, has these splits in it. And you can see the conical bushing inside. You don't want to put this in there and then run super glue down there and allow that glue to get inside here, because it'll just lock up your bushing and the self-aligning aspect of it is over. So you can do a couple of different things. You can use some E6000, some thicker silicone like this, and just use a toothpick. You can apply it right here at the bottom. Then you can install your bushing like that, as you can see, and then you can take some and put it across the tops right here and just allow it to dry. You'll be good to go. Also, another way, UV glue. This Bondic UV glue, it's on Amazon, other places. I really like UV glue. Been using it quite a bit actually, and it's easy to use. Put that there around the outside too if you want to. Give it a zap, It's really strong, and it'll secure these bushings. So that's just the way I like to do it. You can use other thicker adhesives, but again, just be careful. You don't want to glue that bushing inside the housing. Okay, I went with the UV glue, so if you don't want to wait for silicone to dry, you can do the UV glue. It works really well. Oh yeah, that's exactly what we want, is our axle to drop out like that. I put a bead right here on the outside and right here on the tops, and they are very strong, very secure. And of course, that's what you want. That shows you that there's no friction here, that you have a very free turning axle when it drops like that. But that's the whole point of the self-aligning bushings. You want that effect with the other bushings, and it's going to happen here as it flexes. But just to show you, that's what these bushings are designed to do, is to align themselves with each other. And I have to say they do it very well. That's why I really like using these bushings. But anyway, now that we've got these secured, we can get our gear installed, we can get our wheels installed. Might be ready for a road test real soon. Okay, time to talk about our crown gears. Specifically, I'm going to be using slotted gears, so we'll talk about them. The slotted gears are slightly larger in diameter than the stock gears. As you can see here, the stock gear is 14.5 millimeter in diameter, and the 27 tooth crown gear next to it, the slotted, is 15.20 millimeter. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're talking about inside here, a lot of times they mold these chassis with very close tolerance. So in this case, it just barely clears, and I mean just barely, maybe a coat of paint, and that's just too close for me. So we're going to sand this out, and we'll show you how I approach that here in just a second. But just wanted to show you the gear here and the difference on the stock axle as compared. Now, the diameter is going to change as the teeth increase or decrease to keep them 48 pitch, because slotted crowns are 48 pitch. For example, the 28 tooth crown, if you wanted to go up a tooth to 28, it's about 15.83 millimeter in diameter, so slightly larger than the 27. If you go down, let's say to the 26, okay, now you're going down to 14.85 millimeters. So like I said, it will change on the amount of teeth that you want to use, but we're going to use 27. It came stock with a 27 gear, and that's what we're going to put on it. Okay, I've removed the motor, as you can see, and my favorite tool to get the job done to remove this material is, you guessed it, the good old Dremel. And I'm going to be using the 1/8 carving bit right here. That's just kind of ideal for this application. Stock number 194, you can look that up, and you can get it from your favorite Dremel dealer. So now I'm going to go in here, we're going to start making a mess. We like to make a mess, and we're going to go in here and we're going to carve that away. We'll get all this material removed, make sure our crown gear can clear. Okay, I've gotten through there pretty much. You can see that there's some flash right here. The plastic just melts a little bit when you're using a Dremel. It's just part of it, especially if you go a little too fast. But that's what the X-Acto's for. We'll clean that up and we'll give it a test fit. Okay, after installing and test fitting, I can tell you now we are good to go. We have clearance. Turning the model over, I look right here, and boy, I'll tell you, it's just too close to call. Like I said, maybe one coat of paint. So I feel a lot better now that we've removed this material. So there you go, just test fit as you go. You can clean it up like I showed you with the X-Acto blade or a small round file. You can do that to increase and to adjust the opening as you need it, because remember, the size will change, especially in this case going up. You're going to need to remove more material to accommodate that larger gear. Now, as far as pinions go, I do suggest changing out to higher quality pinion like a slotted. I've just left the 9-tooth stock one here just for reference and test fitting. So there you have it. I hope this helps you folks out there. And hey, you know what? Get your Dremel out, get a little dirty, right? That's what it's all about. That's half the fun. So, like I said, I hope this helps you folks, and look forward to hearing your feedback online.